What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Unboxxd podcast, the conclusion to the trilogy, the trinity, if you will. 3 different podcasts all about the 2024 presidential election between Kamala Harris and Donald J. Trump. If you finished the last podcast episode, you know that him and I were having a different conversation. We're having a conversation about climate change, and we're talking about weather manipulation. So we're going to start there. Then we're going to go into policies and policy positions for each candidate. So please stay tuned because I think it's incredibly important. This is probably, in my opinion, Chris, this is my co-host, Chris Boats. My name's Cody Adams. If you don't know, now you know. Anyways, so we're going to go through each policy. We're going to actually go through Kamala. We're going to go through Trump. We're going to talk about each individual one. I think, in my opinion, is probably the most important podcast that we've ever done. I also can tell you this. It's also going to be the best one. More preparation, more thoughts, more conversation, more board time notes, so on and so forth. And more has really happened over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks as this campaign, as both campaigns have unfolded, which is exciting. Before we get started, though, we were talking about...
Yeah, so as I was saying...
There you go. Nice.
On climate change, all right? We just had the hurricanes in North Carolina, right? Now, whether you want to believe it or not, just go Google this stuff. Weather modification is 100% a real thing. And there's a lot of questionable things that were going on that were more than just circumstantial in terms of why it happened in North Carolina, which begs the question, what's in North Carolina, Cody? Why would it be advantageous to perhaps have a massive storm?
So there's, guys, let me just be very, very blunt with you. There's 50 states, and about 15 to 17 of them are blue. And not only are they blue, they're deep blue. And those are already spoken for.
Yep.
Then there's another probably 30-ish, I can say, maybe 28-ish, that are red. And no matter which way you shake it, up, down, left, right, doesn't matter if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're red. Then there's a few swing states, and North Carolina happens to be one of them. I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, basically. I mean, aside from, the lithium and all the minerals that are there, so you can get into that side of it. No, but you're right. So there's a massive storm, destroys everyone's homes, and guess what that forces? Mass mail-in ballots.
Mass mail-in ballots, mass amounts of people not having the opportunity to go vote, having their infrastructure gone.
Internet gone.
Food,
shelter, everything.
You have to get out of there. It's a swing state, folks. This is a state that is purple. Doesn't know if it's blue, doesn't know if it's red. And it wasn't but about 2 to 3 weeks before I was listening to the MSM, the mainstream media, and they were talking about how North Carolina, for the first time, in a long time, might be blue, which is interesting, but they didn't know, and there was so much uncertainty revolving around that. Now, I will say, along with it being a swing state, what you're talking about is this lithium thing, right? So what
does lithium power?
It powers electric vehicles, Chris.
Weird, which there was just the whole, the big climate change agenda. And then you realize that the citizens of this particular town that got hit with a once in 500-year flood, which is in a kind of a mountainous, high elevation area, they were against these big companies coming in to actually mine this stuff.
Correct.
Right? Well, then you study weather modification. There's been Senate bills passed that it's not allowed. And then you research that there were some interesting flight paths going on right around this particular area, flying around for about 6 hours, which in theory, if you were putting different chemicals and things into the air,
iodine, which we talked about last time.
Yep, that would perhaps intensify the storm or draw it a certain way.
Sure.
So
not only that, but then you have a special player, if you will, from the World Economic Forum and somebody who's contributed greatly to society and the advances of technology, but also has made some advances that aren't for us and aren't for the human race, and really thinks that we should have a depopulation effect, not an increase in population, but a depopulation. And that's Mr. William Gates. Bill Gates, which it's funny how Melinda left him. I wonder why he left him. Was it because of the Epstein stuff, or do you think it was because he's involved in the World Economic Forum, because he does this shit? But anyways, he has a flight pattern that goes down through on the western half of Florida, through the Gulf of Mexico, in the exact same pattern
crazy,
that the hurricanes went in, or Hurricane Milton came in. Is it Milton? Milne? I don't know. Whatever the hurricane is, came through all the way the Gulf of Mexico, and then came all the way back. That's the same flight pattern that he had planes going through. How does that make sense? And if you have so much lithium ion underneath those mountains, and the people don't want to mine there, and they don't want to be displaced. That's what this is. It's the great displacement.
Well, and what Bill did is Biden's so proud of this Green New Deal, right? That they passed, which the ironic is, again, for climate change, right? And so you hear all these stories of, they threw billions of dollars to make electric charging stations. They made one electric charging station in 3.5 years. What I also found out today, or a few days ago, which is really fascinating, is so what this Green New Deal did was they basically gave billions of dollars to nonprofits. Well, what's fascinating is a lot of these nonprofits were started in the last year. And the year prior, they showed $100 of donations. Well, who started these nonprofits? Oh, they were ex-Obama
campaign
lobbyists, part of the Obama administration. And so they get $100 a year before, and then all of a sudden they're given $2 billion to supposedly fight climate change. That, folks, is literally the corruption of the government. That's how these politicians make money. They pass these hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, for this supposed climate crisis or whatever the issue may be. They create nonprofits, which then they funnel money into, which are also non-taxable. So you got $2 billion of non-taxable for nonprofit, and then there's no follow-up on it. There's no accountability. They don't actually have to bring about results. And instead, what do you think they do with the money? That's their money now.
100% it is.
That's how it works.
It's a money laundering scheme.
That's how it works.
And I'll tell you this, guys. I've said this. This is our 17th, I think, Big Rob, 17th Unboxxd episode. By the way, oh, look at this. See? Fucking the podcast is so hot. The fire department's here, boys and girls. This is our 17th podcast. And I've said this a few times. You think we're crazy, but 95% of the things that we've said over the past 2.5 years of us doing this have come true, one. And then two, the reason why you think we're crazy, and maybe you're starting to think that we're not, because, eventually, if you say the truth enough, over time, the truth comes out and you're right.
Yeah.
But you don't think we're crazy, or you might think we're crazy because you're not evil, but these people are. And I think you need to understand that, right?
That's really good.
These guys are these human beings are evil human beings.
They're taking advantage of you.
They're power hungry. They're money hungry. They don't care about you. They think you're a peasant. They think that we should depopulate the earth.
Yep.
They don't care what's in their way. They're not going to stop. And not only are they not going to stop, Chris, they're not going to stop because they're backed into a wall. And I'll tell you, it doesn't matter what predator you are, doesn't matter if you're a human being, an animal, when you back something into the wall, it doesn't matter if it's a lamb and it's the softest thing, nicest thing in the world, you're going to fight back.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, this group of individuals, the bureaucrats that be, the people behind the scenes, the powers that be, so to speak, Bill Gates, Obama, so on and so forth. There's some things that will come out if Donald Trump gets elected. They understand that. They understand that they're going to be held accountable, and they're going to do whatever they need to, whatever they want to. They're going to go as far as they need to make sure that those things don't come out.
They cannot lose.
They cannot lose no matter what happens, and that's how they're acting. And this is just one thing. You think we're crazy? We're not. Those people are evil. You're not evil. We're not evil. We just see it a little bit differently with a discerning eye, and we use our critical thinking.
Well, yeah, and once you've been really awoken and you see the truth, you see it everywhere. And so this is why we say, go prove us wrong. Look this stuff up and prove us wrong. We're happy to do it, but what you're going to find is your entire belief system and the things that you've had faith in, unfortunately, is going to be shattered.
You're going to be upset.
And it's going to be upsetting.
Because it was upsetting for us.
It was for sure. Oh, my gosh.
Was it not?
Yeah.
When you look at things just a different way.
That's not right.
That's not right.
Doesn't
what is
add
that
up.
about?
It doesn't add up.
You connect the dots. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's our thoughts on climate change. That's what we were talking about on the end of the last episode. If you want to hear the front end of that, go back to episode 2 out of the 3 out of the trilogy and go listen to that. We're here to talk about the most important thing that we can talk to you about. And that is real policy decisions on things that matter, things that you care about, and things that affect your daily life. That is what we're here tonight to talk to you about. We're here to talk to you about the economy. We're here to talk to you about taxes. We're here to talk to you about immigration. We're here to talk to you about abortion. We're here to talk to you about healthcare, foreign policy. We're going to spend some time on that.
Yep.
Crime. These things matter every single day, some of them more than others. But we're going to talk through Kamala's plan and Trump's plan, and we're going to break things down for you. I urge you, please, to share this episode. I say it at the end usually, maybe at the beginning at some, to share this episode. These are the facts, folks. These are coming right from Kamala Harris's website and right from Trump's website. You can go fact check these right after you watch this, but I urge you to share this, okay? Let's talk about the economy. And look, we're talking about it first for a reason. It's the most important topic of discussion.
It is, yes.
You know, people say this all the time. I don't see color. The only color that I see is green. And they're talking about money. Have you heard that before?
Well,
they're talking about money.
Because money is what the world goes round on, right?
It's what you work for. It's what you buy your clothes with. You're wearing clothes when you're watching this, hopefully. If not, that'd be weird. But if you are wearing clothes, you bought it with money. It's either your money or someone else's money. Maybe your parents bought it for you if you're a libtard. But the car you drive, the house that you live in, wherever you stay, the business that you have or don't have, it doesn't matter what it is. It all revolves around money. There's more videos made, pictures made. There's more businesses that create money. Money, economy, stock market, money.
Yes.
It is how we trade. We don't trade with, back in the day, I would give you a piece of fur and you'd give me bullets.
Sure.
Then they made this thing called currency, and that's what the world uses. The economy is incredibly important. I'm going to outline Kamala's plan, and then you'll go through Trump's.
Okay.
Here's Kamala's plan. She wants to outsource fracking, period. I don't care what she flip-flops on.
Yeah.
She wants to outsource oil production. She wants to outsource manufacturing. Now, there might be a few unions that say otherwise, but the reality of the situation is over the last 3.75 years, 4 years, she wants to outsource things. She talks about child tax breaks. Let's talk about that for a second. Child tax credit, $6,000 she wants to give to every family via a tax credit. Well, those Trump tax credits are I know you're going to go there. Those child tax credits are the same thing that Trump had. She's just reenacting that. She's just adding $1,000 to it.
Correct.
You think about education. She wants to lower the cost of education. Well, that makes sense. She wants to lower the cost of universities, to go to universities so you can be brainwashed to vote for her and her constituents. Then again, she wants to lower the cost of energy. Chris, over the last 4 years, from 2019, fuck COVID, we're not talking about that. 2019 and now, has the energy cost of your energy bill, your gas price, has it gone up or down?
Well, in 2020, so this time 4 years ago, do you know what the dollar per gallon was?
$1.87.
$1.80.
187.
What is it now?
$3.55.
Yeah, and that's an average. Depending on out here, it's pretty expensive. California is outrageous, right? Yeah. And you saw what happened was they demonized oil production in the United States. They took away permits from these oil companies, so we couldn't even drill. We couldn't even create our own pipelines, right? And then what does that mean? Unfortunately, I know it's a beautiful idea, but we do not have sufficient alternative sources of energy yet, unless we want to talk nuclear, which ironically, these leftists are against nuclear, right? Well, why? Because nuclear is so efficient, that would actually be effective.
Yeah.
They don't want efficiency. They want expensive, dumb things that are just, they can throw money at.
The reason why is because where there's mystery, there's margin.
Correct.
Where there's arbitrage, where there's some sort,
good.
This is crazy, when there's, can we pause for a second? All right, we're back. We we have new friends. We have ambulances and hazardous materials.
It's the Biden DOJ trying to shut us down. Dude.
Yeah, we might have people come through here. You don't know.
You never know.
These people are all down where I live in Ahwatukee.
Yeah.
They shut down our whole school. Theo couldn't go to school because there was white substance all over political signs.
Really? Interesting. Well, if we die,
Anyways.
we didn't kill ourselves.
Bomb goes off.
Murderous. But I was saying
Arbitrage.
arbitrage,
Yes.
where there's guys, look, when there's an opaque type of glass in front of you and it's not transparent, it's not glass and you can't really see it, i.e. electric vehicles, i.e. the Green New Deal, i.e. different things like that, there's money to be made. And that's what's going on. So from an
Yes.
energy perspective, more money in the Green New Deal, less money drilling. She's flip-flopped on fracking. She said that she would ban fracking.
Correct.
And now she's saying, no, this is a
Well,
good
why?
thing. She signed, along with Biden, an executive order stopping the Keystone Pipeline, period.
Yep. Well, and then where do you can't, the world runs still on oil and
Period.
that energy. Simple as that.
As it
so then
will.
you cut hours, you make it impossible for us to actually be a producer of said energy,
Yeah.
a net positive.
Right.
And so where do we have to go? Well, we have to go to communist countries like
Right.
Venezuela. Oh, weird. And then guess what else we have to do? Go to Iran. And we have to make them hundreds of billions of dollars in oil, which then leads to what? Terrorist activity all across the Middle East. I
Right.
mean, you can literally just follow the money. It's as simple as that.
Well, you think about this too. We have more oil underneath our feet than Saudi Arabia does and Russia does. And those are the two biggest contributors to the black magic, if you will, the oil. Okay? We have more underneath our feet. You like that, Cade? We have more underneath our feet than both of those countries. Saudi Arabia is the richest country in the world. Saudi Arabia, you walk around the streets, that place is incredible. How beautiful.
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
It's like Abu
No
Dhabi.
crime. Yep.
This place can be just like it. We'll get to Trump's ideas on the economy. But energy-wise, our energy costs have gone up, not only from electricity, everything. I'll tell you this, I drive a diesel now. There's a reason why I bought a diesel, Chris. Diesel fuel is actually a byproduct of making gasoline. It's the shit, okay? And then they bundle it up, and then that's what diesel trucks, obviously 18-wheelers, drive. That's what tractors drive on. That's what my truck drives on. It should be much cheaper as it's a byproduct of making gasoline out of crude oil. It should be much cheaper. And hopefully, in theory, that's the reason why I bought it, because it should be cheaper, because it gets 8 miles to the gallon.
Right.
Okay, it's not a
Right.
good thing.
Right.
So the point is, when you make energy costs cheaper, specifically diesel, that's going to help the economy. So if you keep
Correct.
diesel prices high, the cost to transport goods is high, because the cost to get it there via diesel fuel at $3.50 a gallon versus $1.87 a gallon, or
course.
$1.50 a gallon, which is
the
what it was
entire
back in the day.
infrastructure's off it, Code.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
energy costs. So that's her plan. Let's think about this. We're small business owners. You have your Clickstar mortgage on your shirt, okay? We're at Kinfolk. $5,000 small business grant. What the fuck is that going to do? Your
Nothing.
company put in $400,000, if I'm not mistaken. I know
Yeah,
that obviously
yeah.
your story, to start your company.
Yeah.
We did roughly the same. I think
Yeah.
we're about $295 is what we started this thing with, bootstrapped it,
What would $5,000
figured
have
it
been?
out. $5,000? What are you going to do? You're going to start an online photography business, and you're going to fucking create AI photos?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
what are you going to do with $5,000? But that's her answer. There's two other things I want to touch on, and then I want to talk about, because I did a lot of research on this. So again, we're still talking about the economy. Isn't that crazy? These are her policies. $25,000 down payment assistance. We just watched a video by our buddy Will.
Yeah.
$25,000 that you get from the government. Chris, where does that money come from?
$25,000 comes from your taxes.
So you're paying
For
for it.
folks that are not able to save, and really we're in mortgages. You really, some programs you need just 1%. Some
Yeah.
you need 3% as a first-time home buyer, maybe 3.5% if your credit's really bad. That is nothing.
Dude, I've taken a stance at our company. We don't do DPA, because
No.
if you can't afford a 1 to 3.5% down payment, you don't deserve a home.
Correct.
I'm sorry, but you don't deserve
Well, yeah.
to have a house or create generational
And wouldn't
wealth.
it be better if everything was cheaper so people could actually save money, actually put down their 3%?
Correct. So let's think about
And then
that.
they actually have an equity position in their property, right? And what people
Just
don't
in
understand
case.
is you give everyone, and first of all, they haven't specified who this money is going to, which is another byproduct
Well,
of
it
the
is-
Kamala
it's-
Harris
it's for
campaign.
first-time
She says we're
buyers
going to give
and
money,
not.
25,000 of black-owned businesses, 25,000. They're basically trying to buy your vote is what they're trying to do. And they're
100%.
saying, well, we're not going to fix why everything is so fucking expensive. Instead, we're going to give you other people's
Band-Aid.
taxpayer money to then go buy something that we could. And what is $25,000 going to do? It's going to put a bunch of people back into the market. What's that going to do? Drive prices way back up.
And they're not gonna be able to afford the house
is going
anyways.
to go way up.
because that's fine. The down payment's one part of it. Then you have to qualify DTI-wise. It's a pass-fail.
Right.
And if you don't make any fucking money, and because everything's so expensive and you've been living on your credit cards that are through the roof, it doesn't matter if they give you 25 grand. Here, think about this. Taxpayers pay for $25,000 down payment assistance.
Yep.
Then down payment assistance goes to the bank, okay? We're brokers. We're not the bank. So we can say stuff like this. That $25,000 then goes to the bank. Then the bank sits there, and what do? They lobby.
Yeah.
Now, how do they lobby?
Yep.
They contribute that money that they get from your tax dollars in a roundabout way. They have that profit, and they give it to political campaigns.
Yep.
The political campaigns then, because they start new programs
and
then the program to buy your vote, and then they go into a tax fund, and then the tax fund. It's a cycle of things. This $25,000 down payment assistance bullshit. Here's what they need to do: lower interest rates. Are we saying that biasly?
Well,
sure. But if you put example, $325,000 house, put 25 grand down, 7% interest rate to $2,000 payment, give or take, okay? If you lower interest rates to 4%, that payment's $1,500. If you put 1% down, which 1% of 325, if you kept the purchase price the same, about $4 grand. The payment's $400 cheaper, at least, by just lowering the cost to obtain money.
Correct.
You don't need a $25,000 down payment assistance. And the reality is this. Let me tell you this, Chris. People won't use it. It's not going to be used. How often do we use a DPA? It's not. I mean, we said we take. No,
I wouldn't. No one
uses it
because it's government agencies. It's a nightmare.
The money sits there in a fund, a slush fund, and what do they do with the slush fund? They borrow from it, they use it, they skim from the top, and they launder it back to their money. Correct. They launder it back to the country. They launder it back to taxes, or they send it to Ukraine or wherever else. That shit pisses me off. They're going to lower rent. Of course they're going to lower rent. Why would they lower rent, Chris? This is Kamala Harris. We're not even out of the whole shot here. Here we go. Economy. She's going to lower rent. The biggest purchaser of homes, single family, in the U.S. in the last 2 years has been BlackRock. Through straw buyers, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Through straw buyers and through LLCs that have no name, no face. That's the truth. 38% of homes, actually. Over 1/3 of homes bought. For you mortgage people or you real estate agents that happen to watch us and follow us, how many times have you been beat out by an all-cash offer? And they don't care where it goes, so they're still going to buy it. The reality is they're buying these homes to then rent back to you.
Correct.
They don't care about the interest rate because they don't have an interest rate. They don't want you to own a home.
Correct.
So she's saying she's going to lower the cost of rent. How is she doing that? Well, all she has to do is make a phone call to Larry Fink with $30 trillion, however much he has under asset management with BlackRock, and say, hey, instead of charging $4,000, charge $2,500. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But how do you create generational wealth? It's through real estate.
Exactly. So you're going to push out all the people that have utilized real estate to create wealth, but not trillions of dollars, not BlackRock wealth, to create millions of dollars. A lot of people have done very, very well, hundreds of millions of dollars off of this. Well, you put price controls, you put rent caps on these folks, they're not even going to be able to service their debt.
No.
These properties cost money to maintain.
Yeah, you're talking about normal, everyday people that are landlords.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
It's toast. And what people also don't understand is, again, this is not going to lower the cost. Everything is going to get more expensive. What we've experienced, if you follow mortgage rates at all, the Fed cut rate 50 basis points on this idea because, again, this
so good, dude.
You don't have to say they're political or not, but they wanted to say inflation has stopped. No one buys that shit. Has your gas gone down? Have your groceries gone down? Have your utilities gone down? Are home prices down? No, because inflation is still up. And what's happened is, despite a 50 basis point rate cut, interest rates have climbed higher to where they were July of this year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And it's because actual bond investors are saying, hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on,
Something
Fed.
smells weird.
We don't buy this shit. We're not willing. We know inflation is still probably 5, 6, perhaps even a higher percent, and we're not okay making our 4, 5, 6% on our bonds. So, bonds are going up, and that's what's happened.
We've seen
And it's not a good trajectory.
mortgage rates 99%. I mean, we can talk about this all day, so we'll have to move on.
Yeah.
99% of the
Keep it
mortgage
quick.
industry in September, when rates started to come down, and then the announcement was made from 25 to 50.
Went right up.
We all were like, look, for me and you and 99% of the industry, we thought, holy shit, we're finally here.
Yes.
All the shit we had to go through, all the BS in 2.5 years,
Yep.
the high interest rates, the lack of mortgage applications, starting our companies, we thought we finally could flip our book of business, and it is smooth sailing. Let's ride. And if you think common sense prevails, if September 17th they lower interest rates, you don't have a Fed meeting in October, and then in November you have two things. You have an election, which historically elections produce lower interest rates, period. And then two, you have another Fed meeting guaranteeing a 25 basis point cut. One would think, Chris, from September 20th to November 7th, during that time frame,
dropping.
rates should go down. They spiked and they went up 180 to 200 basis points in most cases.
Correct.
Long and short, guys, the DPA, 25K, all this bullshit about interest rates, Kamala has no idea what she's talking about. And the last thing I'll say before we get into Trump's is this. All of the rhetoric, go on Kamala Harris's website and go through the economy. There was rhetoric like strengthen, opportunity. None of it made sense. And all of the stuff that she said she was going to do, she could have done in the last 4
Correct.
years with the economy. But instead, your bank account's less. It's more expensive to go to the grocery store. I remember going 4 years ago in 2019. Most of you guys have bad, small, short-term memory. You guys smoke too much weed. You need to stop smoking so much weed. Okay? But you have short-term memory loss. Robbie said, don't do it. You have short-term memory loss. You can't even remember in 2019, guys, if I went to a place to go have a burger and a beer, it was $9 for a burger and fries, and it was $3 for a beer.
Not
Okay?
anymore.
And maybe some of you guys live in rural areas, that's still a thing. But I'm telling you here right now, if I went and got a burger and a beer, it's $26 for the burger
Yep.
and another $7 or $8 for the beer.
Yeah,
It's
if.
insane now. And
they
it's
want a
all
tip.
because of Kamala Harris.
And they want a tip on
And then
top
they
of
want a
it.
tip.
Yeah, because they can't afford their own bill.
Because they can't afford their
Yeah.
bills. So it's just a cyclical thing.
Yeah,
That's
it's
Kamala
crazy.
Harris's economic plan in a nutshell. Let's talk about Trump's.
Trump literally said day one, it's drill, baby, drill. And it's because as the strongest power in the world, we need to be a net positive exporter of energy, right? We cannot risk that we have to depend on Venezuela or Iran or Russia, like a lot of these European countries
Saudi.
have to do,
Yeah.
in the event that something were to go down. It's as simple as that.
Well, if you drain this strategic oil reserve. Look, when Trump was in office, he filled the strategic oil reserves up, the largest it's ever been.
Yep.
We're standing over the
What
biggest.
did Biden do?
He drained it all.
Yeah, why? Because
left
he was
us
trying
vulnerable.
to politically say we're bringing gas prices down.
'Cause
Do you remember how fast they went up?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Do we remember, before we get into this, are we that stupid to remember in 2022 when gas price was $7 a gallon?
Yeah.
It was Chris, it was $6.45 in Phoenix.
It's crazy.
I remember going to LA. I think it was LA, maybe it was San Diego in 22. It was San Diego because Chloe and I went there in 22. It was June of 22 or July. And it was $7.99 for a gallon of gas. And if you wanted premium, you know how usually premium's like 10, 20, 30 cents higher? It was $2. It was $9.99.
Crazy, right? And so
Insane.
they
Anyways,
drained
drill, baby, drill.
our oil reserves, which is what we use in wartime in the event that conflict or World War III, which we've never been closer to than we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, that in and of itself is treasonous, and they did that for their own political agenda so they can go on with the mainstream media and say, look at what we've done to oil prices. We brought them down from $7 down to $5. When under Trump, it was $1.80.
And it started at $4. By the way, it was $3.83 or something like that, and it started and then went down to $1.87. Drill, baby, drill. Bring the cost of energy down. That's Trump's plan. Once you bring the cost of energy down, it brings the cost of goods down because the cost of goods to be transported goes down.
Correct.
And we talked about this a little earlier. That's number one. What else?
Number two is the tariffs thing. So
Yes.
there's a big misconception.
Please, let's talk about it.
Everyone thinks that tariffs increase the cost to American consumers, okay? So let me paint a picture for you, right? So China can make an electric car similar to the Tesla for $5,000, okay? Now, by having tariffs on China, those cars, when they come to the United States, they're more competitive with the Teslas, right? China's happy to pay them because they make them for so little, and they're happy with the profit margins. But you have to protect American manufacturing. So yes, in theory, it is somewhat true that installing tariffs does increase the cost of foreign goods in the United States, but it is the only way that American manufacturing can exist. Should we get rid of tariffs? Is the cheapest always the best?
No.
No. And so
10
if we
times out
wanted
of
to,
10
we
it's
could
not,
import
actually.
so these globalists want everything done by children in India and China
Taiwan
working in inhumane conditions. So all you bleeding heart liberals who care about human rights, which is, again, we do too.
Yeah.
But you have to think of it on an economic standpoint as well. So when
They only care about Arizona, United States, the U.S.
Correct.
And their conditions. What about if you're a humanitarian? I would say I am.
Yeah.
I care about them.
all humans.
So if you raise tariffs on imported goods 20%
That's
extra,
pure money to us.
that is, yes, that's pure money to us. One.
Bring down
Two,
what? Our
two,
debt.
they'll pay it. And three, yes, it might raise the cost of imported goods. But let me tell you something, guys. Kamala outsourced manufacturing. I said it in the beginning of the conversation on economy. Donald Trump increased American manufacturing. That creates real jobs, not fake jobs where you lost them during COVID and then all of a sudden we have them back now, which is all that was, or the jobs reports being propped up on the gig economy, which it has been over the last 4 years, or the reporting of jobs being corrected more times in the last 4 years in a downward position than ever has before. Let me tell you something. Every single month, there's a jobs report that comes out, and that report comes out either higher or lower than expectations. If the jobs report comes out higher, guys, it looks better from an economy. There's more jobs reported, so on and so forth. It tells the American people that the administration that is in office is doing a good job in creating jobs around America. The economy is strong. And if you look back, I urge you to go do this. Go to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. You won't do this because we're nerds and we do. And you go look at the revisions year after year, quarter after quarter, and month after month. And all of them, I think but 3 over the past 4 years, have been in a downward position. They'll come out and say, Chris, we've added 157,000 new jobs just this month alone. And then you go through the revision a quarter later, and it's actually 96,000. The reality is this. We have to bring American manufacturing back to America. And how do we do that? We increase tariffs, we drill, baby, drill, and we have American manufacturing.
Well, and to finish up this point is, no, that was spot on.
Yeah.
This jobs report that came out recently, which also led to some of the rate increases that we've experienced, you know what a majority of those jobs were? Those were federal employee jobs.
Biggest
so what is
employer on
Trump
the nation.
going to do? Oh, I don't know. He's going to hire Elon Musk, the richest man on the earth, the biggest capitalist. Smartest man on earth, who's literally putting spaceships into the sky and landing them perfectly on a platform, which is out of 27-story high building.
You can't even figure out your fucking remote
Correct.
to your TV.
So this guy, and what did he do? He just bought Twitter to save free speech for the entire world, honestly, because it was so biased and our government was infiltrating the back end of these social media companies. And he fired 75% of Twitter. And guess what? Twitter has never had as many users and ran as efficiently as it did prior to.
Correct.
Now, what is also one of the biggest wasters and biggest, most inflated entities in our country?
The government.
The government. So what is Trump going to do?
It's the biggest employer in the U.S.
Correct. And now this is going to rattle some people the wrong way, especially if you work government jobs. But the reality is we need to cut about 70. You want to know how you cut our debt? You cut our deficit, you fire 75% of them, and guess what you'll find? It'll run a lot more efficiently.
It will, and there's just a lot of different departments and department of this and department of that, and it's all bullshit. It's just money being ran through. There's 4 people that work there anyways. It doesn't matter.
Yes, getting big
But
salaries.
then all of those jobs, you're like, well, what about all those people? Well, then they go to the private sector. And you know what happens in the private sector? Then it's an opportunity for entrepreneurs like us and a lot of you watching to create something. If it's the Bureau of forestry, for example, let's say that gets cut. Guess what happens? The people that used to work there and the people that have money and have ideas and have innovation and have vision can create a company not called the Department of Forestry, but can be called Forest USA. Put an LLC on that son of a bitch, and you create it through the private sector. And guess what? You're creating jobs that way,
and
which is
people
much
will have
better.
to add actual value to this economy.
Yeah.
There are people that
Private
run homeless
suckers.
organizations in California making $500,000 a year, that
And they don't do
and the homelessness
shit.
has gotten worse. And you don't wonder why? Perhaps the incentive structure is wrong. So you're going to pay someone $500,000 a stable
point,
government
Chris.
job and get a pension, and they need to solve the problem, which will ultimately lead to them not getting a job. I mean, you'd have to be, as a business owner, you'd have to be retarded to set up an incentive plan where the worse the conditions are, the more money they make. And so why would they actually fix the conditions and actually do their job? Because by doing their job, they're going to ultimately lose their job.
Yeah, I think
That's the government. That's the government for
and
you.
a lot of these guys, they're working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They don't care if their work gets done. They push things out. They push deadlines.
gosh.
Guys, how long? Let me ask you a question. If you drive in your city, let's say you live in a city like we do, how long has your interstate been under construction? How long has the roads and the potholes been unfixed, even though you send 15 emails a week? The reality is it's because the government workers are getting paid no matter what,
They don't
period,
care.
and they don't give a shit.
There's
they don't care.
no incentive to be
You
efficient.
privatize infrastructure,
Oh my gosh.
that shit will be fixed in months.
Yeah.
It's the same concept as if you're building a house, guys, or maybe you see buildings that are being built, like big skyscrapers. Hear me out. If you are well-funded, that house, that single-family home, let's say you're building a fucking $6 million house and you're well-funded, that thing goes up, bam, in 7, 8, 9 months. If you're not well-funded, how long does it take? 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Because they're not well-funded, they don't care. The money is not going to the right places, and that's the problem with the economy currently.
Correct.
Which brings us to taxes. One thing, too, Donald Trump's going to lower interest rates, and that's what we need.
We need that.
We need that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's economic. We talked
But
about
you
that.
can lower rates when everything else is not so inflated and the government isn't printing as much money.
Sure.
And then you have tariffs, which are bringing revenue into our government to help lower our deficit. Then you cut our biggest expenditure, which would be the federal government, and that lowers our expenditure. So that's you actually can actually bring down our debt, which is now, I think, $37 trillion, which, you know what, people can't comprehend this too. So, and don't quote, you guys will probably Google this, I'll be off by a couple days. So 1 million seconds, do you know how much that is? It's like, I think it's like,
I mortgage guy.
it's like 3 days, okay? 1 billion seconds is like 3 months. Do you know how much 1 trillion seconds is? And I might have it, maybe it's 3 years. 1 billion seconds, or 1 trillion seconds is 31,000 years.
Holy shit. Now think about that with the deficit right now at 37 trillion. And it's growing and growing and growing.
You
And
can't
it's
even
grown
comprehend
more.
that amount of money.
It's grown more over the last 3.5 years than it has. If you look
Correct.
at segments in 2016, 2019, 2020, 2023, it's grown more and over
You bring
this
that
time.
down, make us a net a producer, an exporter of energy.
Yeah.
You cut our regulation. Now we're going to move into taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But you do all those things, and then you can bring down interest rates, which then you can borrow money from the banks, so you can actually grow your businesses, so you can create generational wealth, and you can get out of poverty.
Let's talk about taxes.
The American
Kamala's plan for taxes. I'll go through that. You go through Trump's.
Sure.
28% unrealized capital gains. I think it's at 10 now. Am I crazy? 10? I think it's at 10.
Flip-flops all the time.
28% capital gains is what she wants to
Unrealized.
impose. Unrealized gains. So let's say you own a home, and that home is worth $1 million, okay? Home goes up $100,000, which is fair. It's 10%. Let's say you live in metro area Phoenix. A house can go up to $100,000 or 10% within inside of a year. You technically owe $28,000 to the U.S. government.
Of your
period.
dollars.
Period. Not because
about
you
that.
sold the house, not because and got the money.
It's unrealized.
That's unrealized capital gains tax.
Wild.
That's you. That is going to happen with you,
Right.
with her in office.
Which no one can afford.
No one can. She wants to make sure that nobody over $400,000 of income is going to get taxed anymore, which that's what Biden said.
Under,
and I had
right?
this.
Under?
No, anyone under. I apologize.
Yes,
Anyone under 400,000 is going to get taxed. That's what Biden said. And guess what happened? Taxes went up. The Trump tax plan, a lot of it got dismantled, and people are being taxed more. Billionaires are going to pay their fair share. Look, dude, there's if I'm not mistaken, like 8,733 pages in the U.S. tax code, if you didn't know that, okay? Only about 40 of them are how to pay taxes. I mean, let that sink in. There's another 8,690 pages of how to not pay taxes, loopholes.
But they don't teach you that in school. Weird.
These guys are not paying. Now, should they pay taxes in their fair shares, and should they get 10-year tax abatements for warehouses and shit like that? Look, I don't know. But the reality is this. The reality is, if she taxes employers more or billionaires more or millionaires more, it's not you and I. These guys, look, if you tax the employers more, that means that I'm going to go to alternative routes of employment. If you want to keep your job, you need to make sure you don't vote for Kamala Harris. AI is this little thing creeping up right now. In about 10 years, it's going to take over all your stupid, shitty jobs that you rely on. And then you're going to be like, what do I do? And then we're going to have another conversation about universal basic income. The reality is if you tax the employers, the employees are the ones that get hurt the most.
Correct.
Not only that, but if you got taxed less, which, for example, payroll tax is something that Trump is going to cut or is saying is going to cut. What would you do with that extra money, Chris?
I would employ more people. I would invest in the business so that we could run more
You wouldn't
efficiently
just
for my
put it in
clients.
your fucking your
No.
hair product gel?
No.
You wouldn't just buy more cool dunks?
No.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
But that's what you don't get because you've never owned a business. You don't know what the fuck it's like. The reality is if you got that extra tax break, because our payroll's $250,000 a month, it's $25,000 a month. That pays for all of our lead flow the next month, every single month, into perpetuity.
Wild. It's
So
wild.
her tax plan is insane, and I promise you that if she gets a hold of the tax plan specifically, that money is not going to go where it needs to be.
No, it's
And
going to go to
that's-
things you don't want.
That's what I want to harp on right here, man, with her tax plan. That's what we're talking about. We're only in point 2, guys. I'm sorry, we're long-winded, but you got to listen
No,
to
this
this
is
shit
important, though.
because this is the truth. The tax dollars aren't going where they need to go. The tax dollars are going to other countries. Let me just stop for a second. Your tax dollars. What does that mean, Chris? Tax dollars. That means your money
Yeah. Everyone's.
that you could have back in your pocket
To spend on your own family. On what you want, not to go support some war that you may not support.
is not being accounted for. Pentagon lost $5 billion, $6 billion.
Who cares?
Who cares? They don't give a shit about your money, and it's like I can't trust. It's your money.
Yeah.
It's not their money. They're taking your money and they're spending on whatever they want.
Well, correct.
Like
And then,
imagine somebody coming to your house and they steal 40 of the $100 that you have in your top drawer.
Yeah.
And then they go spend it on booze and drugs every single month.
Basically.
And they
How would you
ruin
feel?
your fucking neighborhood.
That's what they're doing.
And they yell and they scream and they throw bottles at your house. They're stealing, and it's with your money.
Correct.
Would you be happy? The answer is no. All of the economic plan that she has, by the way, if you don't think that taxes are going to go up under Kamala's plan for people making less than $400,000, where do you think the $5,000 for the small business? Where do you think the $25,000 down payment assistance?
Yeah.
Where do you think the $6,000 child tax credit? Guys, where do you think that money is coming from? It's coming from your taxes because they're going to raise taxes to then use that money to do whatever the fuck they want to do with it.
It's wild. Well, and
her tax plan's terrible. It's
terrible. And also consider they're still going to be printing money, so you're going to get tax on your company's getting taxed on the money,
right?
And then they give it to you, and then you're got to pay tax, and then you got to go spend that money on things that are already being taxed, and then God forbid you die. Guess what? All that money that was already taxed 8 times is also getting taxed. Then they're going to print money, which is going to cause inflation. So even if they say, "Oh, well, taxes are down," it saved the average American family $1,700 per year annually. Well, guess what? If inflation's gone up 20%. 28%, and everyone is, spending way more, that in and of itself is a tax.
When you look at
right?
when you look at taxes in general and the increase of taxes, guys, remember, like, we're a country, by the way, that in 1775, Great Britain said, "Hey, we're going to charge you 2% for this tea," and then there's a bunch of dudes and people are like,
those guys
"Fuck
are
you." No, you're not.
Against
and then
the British Empire.
Against the British Empire. And then they started their own fucking country, and they're 22 years old.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you fat fucks can't even get off the fucking couch because you're too... Anyways.
Well, then talk about, so then you mentioned the capital gains, 28% on unrealized gains.
Yeah.
So what would be the objective of that? Well, first, it's more taxpayers to the politicians, right? So that they can basically buy your vote and spend it on their buddies. But more importantly, if I was getting taxed 28% on unrealized capital gains, I can't have a stock account. I can't afford that. I can't have my property, because if that goes up, $500,000, holy shit, I'm paying fucking, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
So my point is that all goes on to this globalist agenda, which we've said many times, which is own nothing but control everything. You got the big BlackRocks buying the company so that they can rent it back to you. But don't worry, we'll give you price controls. You're not going to get to own a home. You don't get the American dream. No. And then, you think you have homes? Well, guess what? Good luck paying for it.
And they had a microcosm, a little mini
That's what they're doing.
session of what happened just currently.
Correct.
I mean, they raise rates so high that nobody can own a house because you can't afford it.
Correct. So you got to rent. And then lastly, which this was the best Trump line. If you haven't seen it from the 2016 election, please go watch it. It was probably his best line ever, where Hillary Clinton is saying, was criticizing Trump, and Trump, he's getting boos when he's talking. And he's like, the tax system was designed by Hillary for her friends.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm rich is because I also utilize that system. And everyone in the crowd is booing him. He's like, yeah, those are
the same loopholes that you used and created.
That was the best line
as
ever.
A politician,
I've taken
as
advantage
well.
of. He's like, I got rich because of the tax plan that you created.
As you should.
Just like that those 8,600 pages that no one knows. They're not going to teach you in school.
Yeah.
You're not going to tax the rich. The rich will never get taxed.
They'll never get taxed. They'll never figure it out.
It's delusional.
How about this though? How about that? 10% of the population pays for 90% of the taxes. That's the reality. You and I, when we were at Rockish Mortgage, we were paying we were making $300,000-$500,000 a year. And if you claim 0 or 1, I mean, how much were we paying? We're paying $100,000 to $120,000, $137,000 of taxes.
Crazy.
That right there, my friends, pays for about 20 people on average.
Sure.
And what they pay in taxes per year.
Yeah.
That's what we paid yearly.
Yep.
And then the COVID $2,000 came out, and the people that were paying $120,000 a year in taxes, like we were, guess what? We didn't get a fucking thing.
No.
You know where that money went? People that didn't make that much money and didn't pay that much in the tax bill. Speaking of taxes, Trump's tax plan out of Kamala's, we got no tax on tips.
No tax on tips, yep.
Which is great. You
no
got
tax on overtime he wants to do.
Yep. So you got
he actually wants to get rid of income tax altogether.
Right.
Because he's so confident that through the tariffs and other things he's doing in the energy production that we can actually offset that, which is crazy.
Yeah, which is cool. No tax on tips, I think, is sweet too. I mean, you got a lot of the gig economy. You got a lot of DoorDash, you got a lot of servers. You have people too that are early in their careers, like servers and stuff like that, where they can keep their income. The other thing that you don't understand, there's a lot of servers and shit, guys. The cash tips, they just keep it anyways. It's the same shit. They might as well just the credit cards, because everyone is lazy and doesn't want to use cash. Wants to use digital currency, Apple Pay, and credit cards. That's the tips that's the taxes that they pay on tips.
Yep.
The cash they just keep anyways, keep it on their mattress. I know I did. Probably you did. A lot of people we know did. But anyways, IRS, don't come after me after the $400, please. I'm just kidding. But that's the tips that he doesn't want to tax. The overtime, it just incentivizes
hard work
and people kicking ass and taking names. I think that's really cool.
Same.
I think over 40 hours a week. We worked 60, 70 hours a week for 6, 7, 10 years or whatever it was. Overtime's really, really cool on tax there.
Yep.
For, corporate taxes decreasing, which is huge. Again, if you decrease taxes, guys, here's the big idea.
Keep more people employed. It's the trickle down economy. I mean, it's
trickle-down economy.
A real
it's very
thing.
Simple.
Yeah. Economists prove it day after day.
Here's the thing that you guys got to understand. If you lower taxes and you decrease size of government, and then you take those taxes that we pay and you actually account for every dollar spent and where it's going with a budget, and you don't go over that budget, which a lot of you need to hear, this problem stops immediately. You get taxed less. There's less people that are living off of that money. The accountability for that money goes through the roof, which allows us to spend that money on things that matter, like American problems, like infrastructure and social programs, and so on and so forth.
Correct.
That's the point. I think for us, payroll taxes, I think is important. He says no payroll tax. I just talked about that earlier. There's a few other things. Can you think of any else from Donald J. Trump?
No, I think you nailed it. Yeah.
Okay, those are the higher taxes, lower taxes. It's pretty simple. Immigration. These next few ones should go fairly quickly. We really want to hit on the economy and taxes. I know that's
the most
probably
important.
the most important.
But immigration's equally
Immigration's important too because, obviously. So Kamala, we had her get into office with Mr. Joe Biden. And they signed 94 executive orders.
Reduced there, yep.
And completely left the borders wide open. She was, whether CNN or MSNBC wants to say it or not, she is the border czar. She was appointed that. There's video of it. With our own eyes and ears, we heard that. She's left the border wide open. Depending on who you talk to, it's somewhere between 15 and 25 million people have come across this border. She is not going to change it. I don't care that she's flip-flopped, Chris. She's not going to change it.
She kind of has. Now she's saying, well, we'll pass bills through Congress, and of course they blame the Republicans. And then when it started backlashing on the campaign for Biden, what did he do? He went and signed some executive orders, basically implying that over the last 3.5 years, they could have done something at any point they wanted to, but they intentionally did not.
Yeah, and
we got into this last episode, the reasoning for it, and you bring 25 million, you incentivize them, and you change the road so you don't require voter ID. We can go on and on about that. But
immigration, look, she's going to keep the borders wide open. She's going to say some shit, and over the next 18 months, she's going to tighten up border policy, and you'll see it go down, and then she's going to increase it and reverse it year two.
Yep.
Because, look, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do.
Nope. You can bitch, you can moan.
You can bitch, you can moan, you can say impeach her, you can sign any petition that you want. We just saw what happened. 90% of the country, maybe a little bit less, I don't know, thinks that the election was stolen. And there's nothing that you did about it. There is nothing that happened over the last 3.5 years. You bitched, you complained, you signed petitions, and Joe Biden is still in office, and this bitch is about to be in office again. There's nothing you can do about it. So you better get out and vote. Trump's is border wall, which is crazy that now she wants to you go for it.
Well, no, do you remember when Trump was trying to get the border wall and he wanted $5 billion and they said, no, that is too expensive. That's outrageous. We just sent another $400 billion to Ukraine.
$20 billion this week.
Yeah, the benefits we're spending on these illegals to house them in 4-star hotels all across the country.
$40 billion this year in illegal immigrant housing.
Yeah, but $5 billion was too much, guys. That was too much.
I think people get desensitized to how much money that actually is.
People, you can't even comprehend that amount of money, right? And it just goes back to, guys, you lock your front door. If you have a gate, you close your gate. It does 100% defer people. Sure, are there ways to perhaps dig under it and get around it? Sure, but guess what? It's going to stop a whole lot of it.
Well, yeah, and then you can hear it. Yeah. So think about that. Like if there was no wall at your house and there's no door, or I'm sorry, if there's a wall and a door and whatever the case is, and they were digging under it for your house, wouldn't you hear it and wouldn't you put a stop to it?
Exactly.
So those things deter a lot of folks and obviously slow down a lot of folks, what I think is really important.
So if you're against that, it's because you clearly want the problem to persist.
Yeah, which is insane. And these aren't asylum seekers. These are unvetted criminals, and we have all the data. You have all the data. Look it up. Yeah. It's not a good thing.
Over it. Yeah.
Very simple. Kamala, open border, not good. Great replacement theory. Trump, closed border, wall, remain in Mexico, gets back and put in, and you have people that go back to their countries. Correct. And they have to figure it the fuck out.
Did you see real quick? Did you see Trump came out today with a tweet? So you wouldn't believe it, but Canadians, beauty, Justin Trudeau just put out a tweet that they're going to be slowing immigration over the next 2 years so they can focus on the Canadian people.
Isn't that crazy?
Weird. So the communist socialist Trudeau, Canada isn't even letting them in. But for us to even imply that, hey, maybe we need to build a wall and slow down immigration, that's racist. That's evil. I mean, you're so
Well, you look at this too, Chris.
delusional.
Back in 2020, when Kamala had a 28% approval, or I'm sorry, had no votes. I'm sorry, in the primary, and
Weird.
Which just got kicked out. And she just got kicked out again on this last one.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Anyways, she was parading on CNN and MSNBC about how stupid Donald Trump is to want $5 billion from Congress to build a wall, and how idiotic and how insensitive and how this, and this. And all of this money that we spent already, all of that material has just been sitting there and rotting, by the way. But now, as of this week, she's just told Anderson Cooper that she's thinking about building a wall. Like, dude, it's insanity. The flip-flop, the craziness, the absolute jersey switching that's going on. It's super simple. Immigration. I mean, there it is. Let's talk about crime. Oh, you know what? Nope. We're going to foreign policy. Here we go.
Okay.
Foreign policy. Kamala wants war.
I mean,
Why does she want war, Chris? What is there something called?
right.
A industrial war complex.
Mm-hmm.
When we go to war, you can print money. When you can print money, where there's mystery, there's margin. Well, this pack
ding, ding.
this pack right here of military grade washers for the tank is $97,000.
Yep.
And it's the same goddamn washers that you can pick up at Home
Yep.
Depot for 15 cents.
Correct.
Where does that money go? That goes to Boeing. That goes to
what do
Lockheed
they do?
Martin,
They lobby
Northrop
too.
Grumman. And who
They're
owns
the
those
biggest
companies?
lobby. Yeah.
BlackRock,
Yeah.
State Street, and Vanguard.
And that money that then goes
Interesting.
to the politicians.
Politicians to
The biggest
have
lobbyists in the world.
to have this deregulation and to have regulation. and to
Peace
have
is
lack
not
thereof.
profitable, my friends.
Guys, peace is not profitable. So we're on the brink of
Well,
World War III.
and
I'm shit ass
dude,
scared. I'm not kidding you.
And,
But anyways,
and who, we talked about this last episode, who just supported Kamala? Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney was the
Warmonger.
mastermind behind the Iraq War, which was a pointless war. There was
George
no
Bush.
WMDs. Afghanistan for 20 years.
Mitt
George Bush, who
Romney.
you liberals hated,
Chuck-
but now he's on your side. Isn't that a problem?
it's a problem.
Doesn't that raise some red flags
Well,
for you,
if
or
you
no?
go into politics worth 150 or 200 grand, and then you're making $100 to $150,000 as a congressman, and you come out of politics 20 years later, and you're worth $100 million, doesn't that put
Well, that's what you know. That's what we know,
right?
right? You don't
Doesn't
think
that put a
there's shell-
question mark or raise a red flag?
Afghanistan, they called the laundromat of the Middle East. There are shell companies and things you can't even comprehend. We'll never know.
They're washing money. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Industrial war complex. Look deeper into it.
How
Look
many
at
wars did
RFK
Trump have?
Jr. Zero wars.
Zero wars
through Trump.
Weird. So you would think
So
these big billion-dollar companies and these big hedge funds who profit billions and trillions of dollars off of these wars, you would imagine having a man who says, "Hey, this is stupid. I want the war to stop on all sides."
I don't want young
That
men
might
and women
hurt.
to die.
That might hurt our business. Eee.
Ooh,
That's not
yikes.
good.
Well, if I don't have any defense contracts to go overseas,
My
or to
stock
fight
price
X, Y, and
goes
Z
like
war, my
this.
stock price goes down, so on and so forth. Do you
Weird.
get it yet? Do
Yeah.
you get it yet? So, Kamala, puppet, wars, fuck people. They don't like you anyways. They don't want you here. They don't care if you're living. They think you're a peasant. They're going to put you out to war. By the way, if you put young, strong men and women out to war, the next generation becomes weak, especially if you take men, which the majority of the military is
Are
men,
yeah.
still. Well, if you take strong men and you put them out to war and you kill them, then you have women that have kids by those men that are grown up with no fathers in the household, and the weakness continues because you need a man in the household. The industrial war complex is real. Israel, Gaza, thoughts on that? Trump, Kamala, where they stand?
Well,
Tough one. It's a lot.
It-
There's a lot of places we can go here.
I mean, it is tough. I mean, we can get into the ethics of it. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is Hamas attacked
Yep.
Israel,
Yep.
killed 1,700 people, took 200 hostages. Now, Israel could literally flatten Palestine with their Air Force. They have air superiority overnight. And believe it or not, they are actually, while they have killed a lot of them, compared to what even the United States did in Afghanistan relative to the amount of civilians killed, relative to the amount of terrorists that were taken out, they're actually probably one of the more efficient militaries in the world. They are trying to provide aid. They're doing what they can, but Hamas literally builds their network underneath hospitals and underneath civilians. They're using them as human shields. This could be over tomorrow if they want, if they just gave back the hostages, right? But they won't, because and then you have, you know, Soros-funded groups that are pushing this Palestine. That's why you see, anytime you see a group of college kids that are ignorant, virtuous kids fighting for this
Palestine,
stuff, you know that there's billions of dollars behind it, and there's an agenda behind it. Now, Trump, who is definitely the most pro-Israel president, I mean, in our lifetime, no doubt, even he says this just needs to be done.
It needs to be done. And look, I'm going to bring you two things. One, you can't trust terrorist organizations, correct? Is that fair?
Correct.
So can you trust them with them actually sending in how many people are dead on their side?
Correct.
If you can't trust them, as far as you can throw them, I don't care if it's Middle Eastern or not. If you're a terrorist organization, and they're terrorists, which is a terrible word, you're not going to trust the numbers they send in.
Well, dude, and
if it's 20,000, 50,000, it goes up every day. Well, and like for me, man, and I know we've talked about this, but for me, Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and he is a Jew. Period. He grew up in Nazareth. He lived in what is now Israel. You look historically and biblically, this goes back to Abraham and Sarah. This goes back way far with Ishmael. This goes way back, Ishmael and Isaac, where two groups of people are fighting over a holy land. And you had Donald J. Trump, not Kamala Harris, not Joe Biden. They allowed this Israel-Hamas war to happen, and they fund it by giving each side money indirectly or directly.
Well, then that's exactly where I was going to go. Is we don't even have to get into whether or not Israel's right or the innocent Palestinians are dying. Both can be true at the same time.
I agree.
But the simple point is, why is it happening? Well, again, like we talked about, Biden administration comes in, gives back basically $8 billion of cash to the Iranian government, and then they allow them to then produce oil, which they made them another $100 billion. And you don't find it coincidental that all of a sudden Hamas is able to attack and Hezbollah is able to attack.
And the Houthis.
None of it should have happened, right? So whether you're pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, I don't really like to be on either side because I think it's all bad, just like Trump doesn't.
Yeah, it just needs to stop, period.
It just needs to stop.
And just like you said, the money should have never went out and never got to Iran, which funded these terrorist groups to have this happen. The other thing is, real talk, guys, is whether you know it or not, the Gaza Strip and Palestine in general, the West Bank, there is the most amount of oil underneath that area. I don't know if you know this, per square mile than any other part of the entire world. If you flatten that area, what can you do?
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. Interesting how our country is won't drill here, but allowing this to happen, whether, I don't care what side you're on, just like you said, I don't care. For me, I follow Jesus, and Jesus was a Jew, so I'm as pro-Israel. It is what it is. But they're allowing this whole thing to happen, funding the whole damn thing on both sides, directly or indirectly, for what? Interesting. And then you go back to industrial war complex and all this different. It's just very, very interesting how this whole thing works.
They're both sides, though. Exactly.
Long and short, here's what I will say. When you look at policy, that's what we're here to talk about. She doesn't have a policy, period. She's married to a Jewish guy. That's awesome. Good for her. The fuck does that mean? Doesn't mean anything.
No.
Our friend, Mr. Donald J. Trump, went with my friend Ben Shapiro and went and visited Israel and went and visited and talked through the people that died. And I don't know if you saw that recently. Isn't that crazy? And he's also being called Hitler, but he was doing that. That's interesting too. How crazy is that? But then also, if you guys didn't know this, in 2018, Mr. Donald J. Trump, in 1948, I'm sorry, I'll go back, 1948, Israel became a state, finally became a country, okay? And it isn't up until 2018 where Donald Trump said that Jerusalem was the capital of Israel. Now, this hasn't happened. It hasn't been recognized as a country, and then there hasn't been a capital up until 2018. He also, because there was 0 wars, he also had Israel and Iran sign the Abraham Accords.
Yeah, and Saudi Arabia was in that too. And
in Saudi Arabia, and the whole there was peace in the Middle East. It said, look, there's a truce. Let's knock it off. Let's not let our young men and women and children die. Period. Knock it off. And it happened, and terrorist groups subsided because on foreign policy, strength wins.
Correct.
Strength wins.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. He's strong, she's weak. People look at us every single day, guys. They see these stupid rainbow flags. They see this crazy rhetoric online. They see these crazy TikTok videos and Instagram videos. We look stupid. Mm-hmm. And when you look stupid, you look weak, you look obtainable, you look conquerable. And that's how we are currently. There is peace through strength.
Yes.
If you have a big stick and you'll walk quietly with it, it's better to do that. It's better to be, as Jordan Peterson says, a warrior in a garden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's very well said.
Okay. So there's that. You have the Ukraine-Russia war. We talked about this already. Foreign policy stuff.
I mean, this is the same thing too. I mean, you got to take this thing back 8 moves, right? So this is not a tribal, you're pro-Russia or pro-Ukraine.
Sure.
You can actually think both are guilty in some way and both are innocent. And the fact of the matter is innocent people are dying on both sides, which I'm anti-death, which is what Trump says. He's anti-war, anti-death, which, again, the war industrial complex doesn't like. But, I mean, take it back to...
You're so right, man. It's crazy.
2014, the Maidan Revolution in Ukraine, where there was a Russia prime minister of Ukraine that the CIA and NATO basically cooed out, similar to what they just did to Joe Biden, right? And then part of the, what was it called, where they agreed, I'm blanking right now, where they agreed they weren't going to expand NATO. They're right on the border. They expanded NATO right into Russia, and then Russia retaliated, and this is how we get the war. So it's no different than, again, if Russia was setting up, camps and things right at the Mexican border, right by Arizona and Texas, the United States would never stand for it.
Yeah, correct.
Now, again, the simple point is, I'm not tribal. Just like I'm not right or left. I am pro-America, and I'm pro-us, and I'm pro-our people. I'm also pro-all human beings.
Yeah,
and I don't want Ukrainians to die, and I don't want Russians to die. I don't want anyone to die. And this is all a pointless, dumb war that should be avoided in the first place.
Kamala doesn't care. She doesn't have a position.
Kamala couldn't even sit here.
Doesn't understand.
Kamala couldn't sit on this podcast and have this conversation, understand the depths of what this is.
She couldn't. She couldn't go back as far as you did or I did on either topic. Trump, peace through strength. Kamala has no idea what the hell is going on. She allowed these 2 wars to happen for millions of people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people to die. She allowed that to happen under her watch. Oh, Biden, it was her. She was the last person in the room.
Yeah.
She was the fulcrum of why these 2 things have happened, and it won't stop. And It's only going to get worse, guys. You think about foreign policy. I said this earlier. I'm shit scared we're going to get into World War III.
Yeah.
I even think even if Trump wins, there's an opportunity through the transition period through the last few months where they can continue that conversation and continue to push things because they are still commander-in-chief of the administration, or we get into World War III. That's a scary position to be. She allowed this to happen. Correct. Trump will come in and not allow these things to happen and clean up the mess. That's foreign policy.
Yep.
Healthcare, Kamala, universal, government only. That's what she wants. She's even left to Bernie Sanders there. What do we got with Trump?
I mean, you can't nationalize. I mean, I've had friends from Canada, and if you don't, and they actually will come do their surgeries and do their things in the United States because when you have this universal health care, it involves lines. It's unbelievably expensive, and also then these medical systems take advantage of it, and they raise the cost of it too because the money's going to come from your tax dollars, right? So it sounds wonderful on paper.
It does.
Everyone gets universal health care. Everyone gets universal basic income. Everyone gets universal, all these things. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, I met somebody. I was in Sedona this weekend. It was beautiful. It was incredible. Please go. It's beautiful. It was incredible.
It is.
And I met somebody from Bermuda. Actually, it was kind of crazy. And they're literally all government, all universal health care type deal. And he said his daughter, we were talking, all of us were talking. He said that she broke her foot, and she would have had to wait 8 months.
Yeah.
To see an orthopedic.
Exactly.
So, there's pros and cons. Yes, it helps everybody. Yes, it's more affordable. Yes. But you better be ready to wait 8 months.
Correct.
I think
the quality goes down.
The quality goes down.
Innovations crush in medicine.
Well, the reality is you take the meritocracy out of healthcare, right? So, like, for example, if I'm a badass doctor, and I'm one of my friends, Travis Hughes, is an orthopedic surgeon. He's the best of the best. Doogie Howser, smart guy, gets paid $1 million a year. There's a reason for it, though. If I'm in medical school, Chris, and all I have to do is get a C, and it doesn't matter the merit, and I'm going to get paid. I'm going to go outside of medical school. I'm going to get paid $120,000 a year, no matter where I work inside of this country. It doesn't behoove me to get better scores, get a better residency, get a better anything, get a better a job, to go through specialty. It makes no sense. It doesn't matter, because I'm going to get paid $120,000 a year, and it doesn't matter if I'm the best. I'm still going to get paid the same, so I might as well not even try. And that's how a lot of government subsidized universal healthcare countries run.
Yeah.
Now you have America, which is, again, what Trump wants and what we've been running on, aside from Obamacare. We're the best. If you are the best, you get paid more.
The most innovative, we're the
most
best.
innovative, the best. You get paid more. It's a meritocracy.
And it also incentivizes these particular medical groups to be the best. Mayo Clinic, right? These ones that are known to be the best. People will then go spend their money for them, right?
Yeah.
You're right. It's all the meritocracy.
He wants privatized. Trump, she wants government healthcare.
So you have better healthcare. Simple as that.
Better healthcare might be a little bit more expensive, but you have options and optionality. Yeah. Which is important.
You have lower taxes, so you can afford your health care, get the best health care.
Yeah.
Inflation will be down, so your money's actually worth something.
You're right.
Interest rates are down, so you can actually invest your money and expand your net worth.
Right.
I mean, it's.
Well, then let's talk about this real quick on healthcare. It's a cyclical problem. They want you sick, they want you fat, so on and so forth.
Sure.
They put chemicals and shit in your food.
Yep.
And there's no regulation through the FDA. You think the FDA is doing shit? They don't give a shit.
FDA
They
goes,
want you sick and fat. And Pfizer
straight
and
from
these
the
different
government
companies,
to get jobs with these.
These big companies, big pharma is paying for it. They want you sick, they want you fat, so that you buy their drugs so that you can get healthy again, and so on and so forth.
Just prescribe you dozens of drugs. There are people prescribe dozens of drugs which simply mask the problem. It's not actually solving the underlying problem, which is always diet, exercise, and chemicals.
Correct. Here's the deal, though. You have people like Bobby Kennedy that's on that wants to make America healthy again, that wants to stop polluting foods for our kids and making them sick and us sick from eating. You have different countries. You have 6 ingredients here, and we have 55 ingredients in the same damn Fruit Loops. He wants to make America healthy again, which, yes, it lowers the bottom line and the stock price of Pfizer and of all these different companies, but it makes you healthy, which means you have to go less to the doctor, which means you pay less money to go to the doctor. So you don't have to increase your taxes, so you have more take home. So you're healthier if you have the right people in office and the right administration, the right powers that be, like Bobby Kennedy in the healthcare sector. And then the foods are better, everything. And then you don't have to pay as much for healthcare. Like it's all part of follow the bouncing ball. All right.
The money.
Follow the money.
Yeah.
Healthcare. Kamala universal, Trump private plus government. There's government set, like I was on Access when I was a kid. Parents didn't make enough money. There are those programs out there. And for those of you that don't know that, go research that. That's the truth. Abortion, we talked a lot about this last time. We're not going to go into it. Kamala, after birth, doesn't really care, doesn't matter, wants it to go universal into, national, go back to Roe v. Wade.
Trump wants it back to the states. And he also, this is very clear because you're going to see lying commercials. He's against what, Cody?
Rape.
He's okay with abortion for 3 reasons.
Rape, incest, and
the life of the mother.
Life of the mother. So
simple as that.
Period. Like, that simple. Okay. Crime, our last topic, and we'll go through a few things and we're done.
Okay.
Oh, what a great episode,
We're
by
far,
the way.
yeah,
This is incredible.
This is great.
All right. Crime. Let's talk about Kamala. Kamala was a city prosecutor. She is the worst city in the whole entire world. Okay. San Francisco's gone to a complete bucket of shit under her and Nancy Pelosi. She was the city prosecutor. She was the district attorney. She was a senator in California, and that was her district, San Francisco specifically. She has completely flip-flopped on most things that she was prosecuting against, including weed. She was, for marijuana, she's locked up more black men for weed and for marijuana than anybody else has in the history of the state of California. And now she's on what is it called? The Breakfast Club, talking with dude about,
Yeah.
oh, we want to legalize marijuana and so on and so forth. How crazy is
I
that?
want to smoke a joint. Yeah.
She's soft on crime is the whole point. She's soft on crime. You have, she says she's gun owners, bullshit.
Yeah.
So is Tim Walz, bullshit.
Yeah.
They want to take your guns. She's on record saying she wants to take AR-15s, and she is not for 2A, which is the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, period. All of a sudden now, she has every celebrity endorsing her. There's some specific crime that we'll get into when we talk through Trump. I wonder why celebrities are endorsing her. Isn't that interesting?
They always
we
come
have
out.
an absolute opioid crisis on our hands because of an open border and because of our soft policies. We have different sanctuary states and states in general where if you kill somebody or have an aggravated assault, you are cite and release back in to the world. You have we have an opioid crisis, more people dying from fentanyl because that shit's coming over
every year.
And you can't. What did Theo Vaughn say to JD Vance? He's like, you can't even do cocaine anymore. It's crazy. Right? It's so funny.
good.
But there's an opioid crisis,
good.
and then last but not least, she thinks that nobody's above the law. She's so worried. And she says that Donald Trump's going to get in and use the DOJ against them. And there's so many people that are going to be, he's going to weaponize the three-letter agencies and all the different government,
which is what they've done.
law enforcement
against
agents,
him
which is what they're doing
the
against
last 3.5
him. Of
years.
course, the pot calling the kettle black. But ultimately,
Yeah.
that's her policy. No 2A. Celebrities are going to endorse me. I'm going to flip-flop on things that actually matter and things that don't, and that I don't want anybody to be above the law because I don't want to get in trouble for the shit that I did, which is treason, and she should.
So I'm going to jump into all that, but this is really important too. So because so many people are like, oh, Kamala Harris is such a talented woman, right? And she should be our next president. But then when you ask them why should she be president, they never have a reason of one of her accomplishments. So I just want to give you a background of how Kamala got to where she is. This is going to take 60 seconds.
Yeah, I'd love it.
And go Google all of this stuff because it's super important. So you guys all remember the 2008 financial crisis, right? Mortgage fraud, mortgage-backed securities, which caused the entire economy basically to collapse, right? Well, so Kamala Harris was, first, she started by banging Willie Brown, who was a 60-year-old politician out of San Francisco who had a family and kids, but she was basically, in essence, her escort. She was breaking up a family. That's not particularly moral, right? And Willie Brown gave her a position in the government where she can literally go speak to different groups, and she's making probably $70,000 a month her first job, no credentials, okay? She then is, the young hot commodity, young politician. She's on the news because Willie Brown was kind of a celebrity. She ends up dating that musician, or is a musician or athlete?
He's a talk show host.
Talk shows. Dating Montel Williams all over, San Francisco. Look at this young hot Indian woman she was back then.
Yeah, yep.
Right?
She went into the Senate as the first Indian woman in the state of California
which
to be in the Senate.
Which is interesting because, in America, which I don't necessarily agree with, but if you're Indian and then you're also black, you're considered black, right? If you're white and black, you're considered still black, right?
Yeah.
Which is odd. We don't have to get into that. So anyway, so she becomes the next young hot commodity. And then guess who funds her campaign to become AG? A gentleman named George Soros. And this is interesting, right? George Soros, Google this. You'll find on the front page. George Soros was the lead investor in a bank called One West Bank that had over 1,000 indictments for mortgage fraud that they were going to have to be charged with. Well, she gets to be AG, and guess what she decides to do?
Drop all the charges.
Drop all the charges. Doesn't follow up with any of these indictments. Why? No reason. Well, then guess who funds her Senate race? George Soros.
So if she dropped all it sounds like there's a quid pro quo here, which is against the law.
Weird.
If you drop the cases, then I'll fund.
No reason. Google this. She was getting criticized by even liberal and progressive groups for not actually going after Soros at the time. This is all documented. Don't take my word for this. So then she runs as the head Democrat, which is funded by Soros with most money, against no Republican, no opposition to become the senator of California. And then she runs for president as the most leftist senator ever against Joe Biden, doesn't get a single vote.
Because Nobody wants her in there.
Because she doesn't, first of all, she doesn't know she doesn't actually stand for anything. She'll say whatever she believes is popular to get the vote. And then, no joke, she gets the job from Biden because she is a black woman, allegedly, right? That's her only qualification
funny,
in VP, right? And then we know Biden is not mentally even capable these last 3.5 years. We've been telling you. And then, so then you assume, well, then Kamala's making some of the decisions, in which case she'd be responsible for all this. My point is, she does not have the ability to be president. She doesn't even know what the fuck she's doing.
She doesn't have the resume.
And she doesn't have the resume, Cody. And,
period.
And she is funded by these same folks, these powerful people, which even you liberals hate. And so you think that she should be commander-in-chief?
What a rise to fame. And if you think about how fast that was and how documented that was.
This is all documented.
And how
Don't take my word for this.
provable that was. How can you sit here and tell me that she's not a political puppet?
Correct.
And you have somebody who is the antithesis of a political puppet, that is somebody that has never ran in politics, never wanted to run in politics, is completely self-made, and is completely outside of the bureaucrats and the powers that be, completely anti-establishment. But you didn't even, the Democrats, you didn't even vote for this lady.
No, you didn't.
She got put in by a coup because she's a political puppet, and this has been the plan the entire time.
Exactly. So going on back to the crime portion of it.
Yeah.
So, again, she will flip-flop whatever. She might have prosecuted a lot of folks for weed. Now she's loose on crime. Trump is literally, it's just, you don't commit crime in this country. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, okay? And then you have celebrities coming out, which are also controlled by these puppets, which just conveniently are also on this Epstein list. We don't even need to touch on that as much.
And Trump is going to pull out the Epstein list, period. You understand?
Unless they try to kill him again.
So everyone's endorsing her, because if they don't, then he's going to be put on the list, because if she's in office, that list won't come out. If he is, they won't. He's pro 2A. There's no doubt about it. He's tough on crime. She's soft on crime.
Yeah.
All right. We got 4 minutes.
All right, let's wrap this
up. We
up.
got 2 minutes apiece.
All right, go.
I'll let you go with your top 5 reasons why you're voting, top 5 reasons why you're voting for Donald Trump.
All right.
I'll do mine. We'll close out with you.
All right, I'll keep this really quick. Number 1, Trump is not a politician. Trump was a social democrat his entire life. He ran on the Republican platform because he's a pro-capitalist. Simple as that. So he's not right or left particularly strong. Number 2, he's a businessman. He knows how to negotiate. He also came into politics worth billions of dollars, have actually created and employed people. So thus, he's not incentivized to start wars and support the big pharma so that he can get bought out on the back end. Number 3, his entire policy is common sense. We need a strong border. We need a better economy. We need to reduce our debt. We need to build a wall so we don't have illegals coming in, so that we can actually track them, so we can actually afford things. Simple as that. Number 4, Trump loves America. Trump doesn't have to be doing this. Trump could go be on one of his golf courses. He truly loves this country. And number 5, if you guys would just chill out with your hatred and get out of your Trump derangement. Trump is funny as fuck. There's not a person that meets him that doesn't love him. And if you gave him a chance, you might actually love the guy. And these might be the best 4 years of our lives.
I couldn't agree more. Top 5 reasons why I'm voting for Donald Trump. Number 1, the economy, period.
Simple.
I'm a mortgage guy. The cost of living goes down, taxes go down, rates go down, life and quality of life gets much better. Number 2, it is the interruption of the establishment.
Ding, ding, ding.
You drain the swamp, you fuck the whole system, you get this guy into the office, and you get all of those terrible lifelong politicians that shouldn't be there out. You interrupt the establishment. Number 3, his work ethic. This is the hardest working man in the United States. He is on 57 days straight of campaigning. Last in 2020, he did that even more so. He works sun up to sundown, and he doesn't have to. And he's strong, and he's 78, and he's strong. Number 4, probably the most important for me, the people that he's surrounding himself in his cabinet with. The transition team, Vivek Ramaswamy. You're talking about Elon Musk, RFK Jr. You're talking about all these, Tulsi Gabbard. Unbelievably smart people. And as business owners, what do? You surround yourself by smart people so they can give you ideas. This wasn't the case last time, but it is this time. He surrounded himself in 2020 with yes men. And guess what? It got him nowhere. This time, he's surrounding himself with the best of the best of the best. And then last but not least, let me just say this. Very simple. He aligns most with Christian values.
Yeah.
Super simple. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. The things that Jesus Christ and the Bible says, he aligns most with. I don't care if he's Republican. I don't care if he's Democrat. He and his values and the Republican Party right now in 2024, that is why I'm voting for Donald Trump, is because it aligns most with Christianity.
Yep.
We love you. We care about you. Get out and vote.
It's
Take your
important.
people with you.
Yep.
I don't care who you, I care who you vote for. Vote for Donald Trump. We talk about
Hey.
this, but please.
Yes, this
get out and vote.
next time we do our episode, Trump will be president, and we're going to be on our way to winning and having the best 4 years of our lives.
Absolutely. Love you guys.
All
Share
right,
the
guys.
show.
Peace.